cavernous room with only just the executive committee.
Hello.
We do have a quorum, really?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, well, good morning. The April 11th Executive Committee meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from an interpreter. To use interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, world, and select English as your language. If you're joining through Zoom mobile app, cell phone, a tablet, etc., please press your ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on the mute original audio. Do not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation if you are in the meeting room. Please check out the headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares a la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay Tequeño, the Luiseño, the Copeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me for the flag salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Michael, can you please double confirm quorum?
We have quorum with County of San Diego absent.
Okay, let's begin with non-agenda public comment.
As a reminder, public comment shall not use loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the executive committee meeting is prohibited. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. So based on those factors, the chair has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. Also, as a reminder, executive committee, we do not use the voting pads for executive committee. So please just go ahead and raise your hands if and when you'd like to speak. Right now, we have 4 in-person public comments and 4 online, Chair. And first up, we'll have Cesar Javier, followed by Purita Javier.
Good morning. I am Purita Javier, victim of toxicity. Our city code enforcement case CE 515317 in June 2021 had been closed by the City Code Enforcement Division per Rule 11. Exemptions from Rule 10 permit requirements, and that they have nothing to do with business permits. We were then referred to Air Pollution District and to get a land use and environment lawyer to validate. The air pollution control district investigation did not materialize for reason of city jurisdiction, as they could only do the pollution level reading in public space and not in private residences. We also asked help from the Environment Protection Agency, County Hazardous Materials, City Fire and Fire Department, but they all closed the case simply because the business has permit. We reopened the case. Honorable Sean Elio Rivera of District 9 responded and dubbed those health and safety issues as air pollution and air quality problem, and further hinted a policy change. Honorable Joe LaCava, after our chance, brief acquaintance in Balboa Park, also considered it as environmental issue. Ceramics manufacturing.
The time has expired. Next up is Cesar Javier, followed by Truth.
Cesar Javier, thank you, SANDAG. We learned from you. We learned from you. That's why we are here, consistently aiming to learn from you. Thank you, SANDAG. We were able to pinpoint two weak links. One, the Rule 11. Two, the implementing force by the city of San Diego. So what did we do? We used amplifier, attending county meetings, air pollution control district, SANDAG, as well as, what is the other one? We forgot it, but there were 4 venues. Unfortunately, our crusade is, shall we say, we will not stop, because along the way, we saw weaknesses in our government institutions. Air pollution control district is failing leadership-wise. Our honorable mayor, in his baptismal attendance, witnessed how the public is suppressed of their voice to tell the truth, to say the truth, and with our body language says it is not acceptable. We have 10 members of the governing board, and who they are, you will know it, Honorable Mayor of Coronado. Military attendance is a must, because air is #1.
Thank you, Cesar. Your time has expired. Next is Truth, followed by allegedly Audra.
Okay, so the doors were locked again, and your mics are too low for this giant room. I do love the rope barriers to protect me from you dangerous representatives, but you guys actually missed a spot on stage left. There's a big gap right there. I could easily run through. I'm very glad that Allison spoke up for underserved East County. And speaking of underserved, how many billions from the federal government are going to the OME border crossing? SANDAG's move of the Losan tracks already has $330 million set aside, plus a couple billion just for the studies of where the tracks will go. But which one is more dire for health? Mexico just had a third sewage spill trying to piece together their SAB plant. They said they'd have exhausted all options because they have no idea what they're doing and they can't admit it. At Borders, Mario finally revealed there was a SANDAG mystery meeting in Mexico City with the Mexican Treasury Department and the Ministry of Foreign Relations, and that's where the idea of an environmental trust fund by Mexico was floated, and nothing's a done deal. That's sure to go nowhere fast, but the question is, why couldn't Mario have given those details publicly to the Imperial Beach representatives?
OME, the first ever non-federal border crossing with primary toll readers in a foreign country, is an unprecedented project. So why not an unprecedented spending formula too, for a project that will create unprecedented harm upon communities and the environment? According to Mario, NADBank will be getting a $26,000 cut of the profit just for holding the toll money. I don't know if that's a year or total. Yet they don't seem to have had a meeting in years, but they're having a summit in August. Will SANDAG attend and push for real solutions? Because NADBank has a Border Environment Infrastructure Fund. They provided loans to Mexico to fund wastewater treatment plants. Mayor Paloma suggested IB should be the wrench in the gears to impede to OME. This is where things are headed. How many SANDAG projects are going to harm communities where they're left with no remedies but to sue? And how dare anyone at SANDAG think they have a right to demand more taxes from us? It's not going to happen. Don't waste our money on it. And I want every single rep on this board to start fighting against AB 1421, which will extend the state mileage tax program to 2035. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Paul the Bull online.
Good morning. The sound really doesn't sound good. It's sad. You guys spent a lot of money. I feel like you could fix that. And it's interesting where we're at because hopefully more people will actually see there's a meeting here and be like, what's that? I want to come and attend and see what's going on in my local government, see the fraud, waste, and abuse taking place because that is happening off the charts. And it is crazy the rackets that are happening in San Diego. I mean, across the nation too, in the world, but San Diego is super corrupt. And yes, Rebecca, I'm going to mention you again because I know you don't care, and that's sad because you should actually be disturbed by what's going on in your city. The ALPR cameras that my friend has been trying to get the sheriff to access because she was hit on her motorcycle and the driver drove away. It was in a white sedan on March 8th at about 9:30, 10 p.m. I'm pretty sure that's a good little chunk of time that you could really narrow down to see who actually hit her. But, you know, after 30 days, the information gets erased. So I'm just wondering if they're waiting until that time to tell her, we don't have that information. That's why there's fraud, waste, and abuse going on. There's even officers that will talk about the ALPR cameras and that it is all a fraud. And you can tell when somebody, you know, gets hit, breaks their arm and leg in half, basically has to have a bunch of pins and, you know, like 50 staples or something like that. But I mean, who cares? It's none of you guys, right? But I bet if it was, they would be damn sure to find out who it was that hit you. So it's very sad to see that we're spending money on something that really doesn't do anything to save somebody. And Rebecca, you could have actually contacted my friend when she reached out to you. Instead, you said that you're putting the sheriff on it. She didn't call the sheriff. She's already done that. She called you. And you kind of just tossed her name aside as well when she came to speak before the city council. And of course, you're going to look down and who knows who you're texting. But this is the kind of problem that we have when we're spending money on stuff that really doesn't do anything for the people.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Paul the Bull online, followed by our last public comment online of Blair Beekman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go
Hello?
ahead, Paul.
Welcome to the new boardroom. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but do party hardy. Shake it up, Rose, and let them feel it in the canyon. It's not my fault, though. The UT says SANDAG's sand replacement project is 3 times the amount of sand and 10 times as expensive as previous projects. It also says that the current project will dump sand on Oceanside and Dana Point. Don't know why the Coastal Commission isn't doing this. So a $260 million project on about 18 beaches, about 14.5 mil per beach. OC, Orange County, has 3 beaches, about 40 or 50 million, that is. Will they compensate us? And OC has its own counterpart to SANDAG. Why are they coming to us anyway? Apparently, plans are to get the sand from the ocean. That would be a major disruption to marine life, and also, by the way, marine researchers, diver tourists, regular divers, and maybe even our own fresh fish supply. We need a robust discussion about this project and its feasibility and where the money will come from, not a piecemeal game of escalatio. And it kind of sucks that the coastal cities have to pay for this beach restoration while everyone uses the beaches. But thank you. And I agree that SANDAG wastes a lot of money. In particular, I think by doing projects which are placeholders and they finish them later, but sometimes the funds don't come for a long
Thank you. Your time
time.
has
So
expired. Next is our last public comment is Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. I am wrapping up. I've been living in Mexico since late February. I first traveled down to Oaxaca. I've been making my way up north since. I visited Guadalajara. I visited Mexico City when Mario was in Mexico City. I didn't know we were there at the same time. Now I'm up in Hermosillo in the Sonora Desert area. I'll be back in San Diego next week. It was very warm. It was very nice down here. I'm 55. It was a good learning experience. My first time really traveling deep into Mexico and really interesting. It was good, simple, decent. I wanted to comment. It was offered by DRA. City of San Jose has made some really interesting attempts to try to help people out to what is exactly the practice where people can receive ALPR information. San Jose has worked on that item a bit. It'd be something to reference. Good luck in working on the issues of Mexico. Mario has traveled to Mexico City. Good luck how he brings those efforts back to our work in Tijuana and makes that just a regular part of the process. With my remaining time, I wanted to comment that thank you for the work of the Losan corridor area that people of Del Mar, the homeowners seem really worried about the future of these track issues. I'm personally worried about the future of lagoon issues. Thank you that Mario, and it seems like the people of the Del Mar racetrack, they're talking about how to move the Yellow Line project a little more northward. And I would think it would come in to avoid less homes, less lagoon areas, and to address, it would have to go through the Del Mar racetrack area. So good luck in those efforts. And when you double track in the future, I think we need to very much consider that we have to only use one track and use the second track as little as possible.
Thank you, Blair. Your time has expired. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
That concludes our speakers. All right. Any non-agenda member comments at this time? Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I just wanted to mention, as things are happening within our cities, as far as land use goes and density bonus projects, we have a lot of that happening right now. When it comes down to it, if we can look at our legislative platform and, again, working for local control, I think that's really important in all the things that we're supporting. And there is currently, and I can't remember the number, I want to say SB 79 possibly, that is working its way through right now. Another Scott Wiener bill could be very devastating to our communities. And as an agency with all 18 cities being represented, plus the county, I think it's important for us to look at that. Specifically, 7 stories is far too dense in my opinion. I have actually a 6-story building with 160 all low income, affordable housing with 40 spaces that is being proposed in my city, right in the smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So I think we need to, as an organization, think about how we can further work for local control. Anyway, thank you.
And I can assure you that it is a priority of mine and that I'm working toward that. And we will be focusing on, now that we know what the bills are, we will be working with our lobbyist and every contact that we have to assure that the development that does occur to ensure affordable housing is appropriate, well-designed, and fully parked, because we know the reality of what our cities are like.
Yes, and at almost 11% of all my total housing stock, second highest in the whole county, percentage-wise, I think it's I've done my share and I'm happy to do that. And I'm continue those efforts. I do not want the state having any control over us. It's just very devastating to our communities. Thank you.
It is. Mayor Sanchez.
I just want to say that I'm in support of all those comments. We really need to push back on that. I think, the city of Oceanside is probably the most urbanized city on the coast, on the North Coastal, and we're doing our fair share, but yet we keep being told that, we don't really care about affordable housing, and we do. We're a working class community, and I think it's critical for us to push back on this. Thanks.
I think we all agree on that point. All right. Any other non-agenda member comments for Vice Chair?
I'll jump in as well, not to do one upmanship. We have a 23-story proposal in Pacific Beach, which is taller than every other building in Pacific Beach. And it is the loopholes and unintended consequences. And even though I'm very pro-housing, I come from a land development background. I think housing is such a big thing in Sacramento that they're just tripping over themselves to say, I've got to come up with one more bill. I've got to come up with one more idea. Some of the early legislation I think was good and thoughtful about trying to incentivize housing, but now they're just going crazy. And it's not our fault as cities. I think all of us are doing a good job. Some of us are doing better, but I think we're doing a good job. And it's everything else that we can't control: interest rates, the price of land, and how the financing is. That really is the obstacles to build the kind of housing that does fit in our neighborhoods and is very thoughtful and is truly affordable. But what's happening now, I agree. I never thought I'd get to this point, but I am definitely at this point as well. So I look forward to more conversations that we can have within SANDAG.
Yeah, thank you. And the other thing that's not in our control is we cannot force landowners to build. So, all righty, I think we're on the same page on that, and I appreciate the comments because it's getting to be quite extreme every year. All right, we're now going to move on to the consent calendar. Is this really echoey? It's very, okay, so we are aware that the sound needs help in here, and we'll be working toward that. If I am back this way, is it better? Worse. Okay, I'll just deal with the echo. Turn off. Okay, all right, we're going to move on to the consent. Michael, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
We do. We have 3 in-person public comments, Chair. And then first up, we have Cesar Javier, followed by Truth. Please identify what a consent agenda item you're speaking to, please.
Cesar Javier, thank you. Brownout is in action to a supreme level in my own description. For newcomer, the minute is readily available. We have read it, we have seen it. A coffee table literature of history. Work is done, legislative materials processed and used to the maximum. The only controversy is good, bad, best. Oh, I'm sorry. I am just carried by my excitement. Good, better, best. Correction. Good, better, best. That's the controversy in our undertaking. But there must be something else missing. And I am inspired by SANDAG to say this. We consider this planning and policy making aimed at mobility circulation as a national security issue. We therefore ask, inspire you to get representation from 1, IPA, air, water, land, coastal lead agencies. We need their inputs. And let's not forget the academians, schools, universities, old and young. And last but not the least, our defense representations. Thank you, SANDAG.
Next, we have truth, followed by allegedly Audra. Please identify which consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Item 4, the May 2nd date means a canceled regional planning committee. What about the audit committee? And why won't you guys reveal where it's at so I can plan? I want the retreat in Lemon Grove, Elko, National City, or Carlsbad. Gotta have a variety. Item 3, AB 334, no to nationwide tolls with nationwide data sharing with zero privacy concerns addressed. AB 24, who cares if any of the county seats are removed? They don't care. SB 240, if the county's worried about double voting or double representing, why not dissolve completely? All of the cities already have a government, and the unincorporated communities can get along without the clown board via the planning groups. And no to SB 10. Why has SANDAG only ever mentioned this bill when it's been rendered ineffective? Not only has Steve Padilla lied to rewrite SB 10, but he's also taken away the only tangible solution to restore the Tijuana River from pollution that was ever legally written. Removing the mitigation fund out of SB 10 was a betrayal of the South Bay. And IB Steve's rep, Ian Fergosi, said, we can't force SANDAG to do anything. Really, what happened to state law? SANDAG doesn't follow it? That's a lie. Ian also said, even if SB 10 passes, we still have to get the federal government to agree. So how is this rewrite of SB 10 any different than how there can't be a declaration of a state of emergency without New Scum signing off? It was even suggested that Mayor Paloma went behind the council's back to support SB 10's rewrite. Was SANDAG staff another one of those secret stakeholders willing to sacrifice Imperial Beach? The March border report contains lies straight out of the Mexican government's mouth. It was not rain that delayed the SAB treatment plant. They bought the wrong pipes. And now a foreign country is hitting us with yet another 5 million gallons of raw sewage. And SANDAG seems to be covering for and trying to fund these polluters. I'd love Sean Duffy to defund SANDAG's prioritizing money over human life, aka the OME crossing. The sewage emergency is the worst environmental crisis in this nation. Everybody needs to be on the same page for solutions. Steve Padilla, SB 10, and SANDAG included. No more excuses. You know what the problem is. You know what's going to cause a problem. There's no reason there can't be an actual tangible solution, not workarounds and rewrites going behind people's backs, go behind the city of Imperial Beach's back in particular. Thank you.
Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman online.
All right, 3 and 4. I'm going to start with 4. Exciting, you guys get to go on a retreat. How fun is that? We get to pay for you guys to do that. And luckily, I love how you said public will be afforded the right to have to offer non-agenda comments at each meeting. That's so nice. But yeah, without knowing where it's at might be a little bit difficult. And is that going to be on Zoom and in person? And so with the things that are going on with Mexico and the Otay, East Otay Mesa port of entry, and even the sewage. I mean, just with the port, it's interesting because you're like, we're going to collect license plate numbers, you know, to be able to see when people are coming across, right? And I bet if somebody did something wrong, you'd be able to find it. But if somebody gets hit on their motorcycle, you definitely can't because there's no money in that. But as far as the toll revenue goes to go towards the maintenance of the sewage treatment facility, like you're talking about giving Mexico or having them start some kind of a fund or whatever. I can't even think of the word right now, but who's really going to enforce whether or not they're going to actually put that towards their infrastructure and doing what's needed to be done? Because it doesn't matter how much money we put into our infrastructure to do it. If the sewage doesn't stop coming from Mexico, it's never going to matter because they're never going to be able to keep up with treating that. And so you need to be doing something like suing Mexico as opposed to going, well, we're going to go ahead and let you take this money, because who's to say they're even going to spend it on what they say, right? I mean, but then you can just say, well, they told us they would, but they just didn't. You need to start, instead of, the county's working on suing this treatment plant that is no longer being able to be used because it was defunded. So instead of suing our own people, we should be suing the people that are the ones that are making the problem happen. Otherwise, we're wasting the money from those tolls to do something that is pointless because it will never keep up with what needs to be done.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman online, followed by Paul the Bold.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. I mistimed my non-agenda public comment. Sorry about that. I did want to also quickly offer that thank you very much that you guys are talking a lot with Orange County people and inviting them to your public meeting process recently. SANDAG is. It's very nice you're doing that. Good luck in that sort of good work and communication, and we continue to develop that. Mr. Javier is offering military should be a part of a more regular part of our meeting process. Good luck with that. I wanted to quickly offer that for items about about the future of assembly bills and federal agencies and state agencies you're talking to. I wanted to quickly comment that one of the items is your agreement to a sponsorship of a tech issue about the future of toll issues and at the state level, where they want to specify that toll operators are supposed to only pass along ALPR information to each other. It's a bill item, a state bill item, and specifically work on passing along ALPR info. That's kind of an interesting notion. It's organized, compartmentalized, but it's important to remember that we are building a tech future, a camera system future that includes a lot of biometric data collection tech. That's going to be just simply a part of the future of our toll system and our tech system, surveillance system, that we have to learn to be more clear about and not be afraid to have those conversations. I've been trying to make this point that I hope you can be prepared. I'm trying to speak about it now so we can be prepared to have those conversations more openly, because I think it's a very fearful subject to have openly. And good luck how we can do that. COVID-19 really brought out that, biometric camera use is a part of our lives these days. So let's try to work on making it a clear, open process. It's part of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Paul the Bold. That's our last public comment. Paul the Bold, please identify what comment consent agenda item you're speaking to.
Legislative status. Please update all your outdated reports and charts to reflect the current situation. If SB 233 passes, Sacramento doesn't need a report of housing needs based on 2020 data. If you can't change, get out of the housing biz. Otay Mesa East tolls should go to their intended purpose, not to subsidize the TJ River Valley mess, which should have and could have been fixed years ago by the county and local efforts. So no to SB 10. Thanks to Senator Jones and Assemblyman DeMaio for their efforts to add a board member representing the unincorporated area. This is much needed change. Draft board agendas. Oh my God, it looks like an overnight board retreat. I can think of 2 more topics for discussion. Which programs to cut, like regional bikeways that aren't fully used, and replacement, or the downtown stopover plan, wasting time and effort for so many years. And why are we subsidizing other regions, like sand on OC County beaches or Otay Mesa East funds for federal or international agencies? 425. Item 8, the Federal Transport Administration project list should be delayed until we know for sure whether Fed funds will be available. And the audit status should be every meeting. 5.9, expecting the Fed to fund 44% of SANDAG's budget is unrealistic. So I suggest holding off on item 7. Have a special meeting if you need. 2 meeting minutes. I was disappointed but not surprised that the WIPA recommendations item was deferred. Sounds like you rather keep it secret, sort of a Trumpian punishment for what you don't like.
Thank you. Your time has expired. That concludes our public comment on consent, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any member comments on consent? Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I do have a question on the draft agenda for April 25th. The fiscal year number 6, the fiscal year 24 Transit Extension Ordinance Funding Eligibility Request. And I'm wondering if that's one request or several requests, if I could get some clarification on that, that would be great.
I think Susan Huntington is.
Sorry, and yes, this room is big and I feel like it's very echoey, so
No,
my
Susan
apologies.
will come in and answer that question.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
On the draft agenda for April 25th, on item number 6, the fiscal year 24 Transnet Extension Ordinance Funding Eligibility, it says request, and then it has an upper stamp. I mean, what is that? Asterisk.
The asterisk,
Yes.
yes.
The asterisk, sorry. And I'm wondering if that is for one request or several requests or,
The asterisk indicates that the board will be functioning as the Regional Transportation Commission. And so that's in your role as overseeing the Transnet funds. This is one time that they'll come for that request. These requests come up through ITALK to request that those jurisdictions can continue to receive the money.
okay, so it is then something that will be coming forward, but will we know what those requests are in advance or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that'll be part of the agenda packet. And right now, I believe that it will be also going to, it's going to ITALK, TC, and then it will come here.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments by board members? I see none, so may I have a motion to approve consent?
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Mento, second by Duncan.
I just had a question about, can we say where the retreat is since?
I don't,
it's coming
I
up?
think we're still working on finalizing it. Is that the? We can say? Oh, we're still negotiating. Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. All right. So let's vote. We're not using our devices. So all in favor of approving consent, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, that passes unanimously with those present. We'll now move on to our proposed board policy changes. Julie Wiley.
Hi, and just to introduce us,
First Mario. Okay.
yeah, as Julie's coming and doing the presentation on the policy proposals to change, we've been prioritizing on the OIPAS and other audits for recommendations, and that's where Julie focused. These proposals will be probably clearing about more than 50 of the recommendations that the different audits have proposed, not just OIPA, but others. And we are prioritizing other requests like the Audits Committee Policy 39 that will be coming in May. But this one, let's say this is one of our focus because we were going to get so many of the different audit recommendations checked and meet compliance. So I'll let Julie take it away.
You're referring to the corrective action report?
That is correct. Recommendations and corrective actions. And we have about 260 of them. So these actions will actually check the box or get us close on more than 50 of those recommendations.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Julie, take it away.
Okay, so good morning.
Could you pull the mic closer?
Yeah, I can get the mic closer. Now it's echoing for me, so okay. All right, so as was stated, my name's Julie Wiley. I'm a former general counsel for SANDAG, and I've been hired as a retired annuitant to help out with some projects for the agency, and this is one of them. So I am going to go through a handful of board policies that require substantive changes to address a number of recommendations from various audits from 2024. So we're going to start with board policy 11. That policy concerns travel. It starts on page 44 of your agenda packet if you want to follow along with me. Section 3.16 is where we'll start. It concerns the administrative travel policy requirements that are a companion to this board policy. These changes are proposed to strengthen requirements for obtaining approvals for travel and for training requirements for those staff who are involved with with travel for the agency. These changes will apply to both board members and staff. Moving on, then we're going to cover board policy 16, which is by far the policy with most changes to it. There were 45 recommendations made by OIPA to increase internal controls around procurements and contracting. Currently, SANDAG has 3 board policies. Board policy 16 covers services. procurements associated with services. 23 covers equipment and supplies. 24 deals with construction. All these policies were drafted over 20 years ago, and the law has changed in several respects over the years, making things more similar than different between those different types of procurements. And that, coupled with all of the changes that are needed to address the OIPA concerns, means that it made more sense to combine these policies into one policy. So that is why Board Policy 16 has so much redlining in it. It's because we started with Board Policy 16, took out what was in Board Policy 23 on equipment and supplies, and in 24 on construction that was not overlapping, and put it into Board Policy 16. So Board Policy 16 would now be your policy that covered all types of procurement and contracting in one place. So Board Policy 16 does start on page 48. And I'm going to go through some of the changes. Oh, and see, I already missed a slide for you. Sorry about that. This slide shows you the various sections now in Board Policy 16, and it shows you which sections have old language versus new language. And hopefully this helps you kind of get a feel for where most of the changes are. What I'm going to tell you is there is a new introductory section, and definitions have been added, including definitions for what constitutes an emergency and what constitutes failure to plan. Also in section 4, this is the section that discusses non-competitive procurements. There is a statement about these being disfavored and only permitted in limited circumstances, in which case they will be reported to the board. Section 5 adds factors to be considered in determining whether a contractor has the finances and experience to successfully complete a project. It also adds language about procurements and contracts over $5 million being brought to the board for approval. Section 11 has new language requiring contract staff to ensure bid splitting is not occurring, and that amendments over $500,000 be brought to the board. Section 12 is the section that contains the bulk of the new requirements regarding OIPA recommendations, including contractor performance tracking and evaluations, situations that will require a report to the board with regards to contractor performance, project manager skill requirements, invoice approval requirements, and employee training requirements. This slide shows the categories of changes made and the number of OIPA recommendations each of the proposed changes would address in whole or in part. If approved, many of the changes in Board Policy 16 will require new forms, contract language changes, staff training, etc., and that will require some time to fully implement all of the OIPA recommendations. The last board policy to cover this morning is Board Policy 17, which concerns delegation of authority to the CEO. It starts on page 101 of your agenda packet. Section 2 has been modified to allow for delegation of authority by the CEO to the CFO. This has been done as a proposal because previously we had chief deputy positions, and when the CEO was absent, the authority would be automatically delegated to those positions. Now that there is no longer chief deputy positions, the proposal is to have that go to the CFO instead. Section 5 contains a proposed change to the CEO's appointing authority for employees so that the board can carve out exceptions if it wants to appoint certain positions itself. This is consistent with advice from outside counsel to use board policy to allow the board to appoint the person who will serve in the general counsel role appointed by the board. There's an item on the agenda for later today at the board meeting to specifically discuss that general counsel role. In addition, modifications are proposed in Section 8 to achieve the OIPA recommendations shown on this slide to tighten internal controls and ensure accountability. The Executive Committee is asked to discuss the proposed updates to board policies and advise on whether it wants to recommend or modify the changes that are proposed and then they will be presented to the board for approval. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Julie. Before we go to any questions, let's go to public comments.
We have 4 public comments, Chair. The first one is truth, followed by allegedly Audra.
I'm not sure if the lawyer counsel thing was still in there, but I'm going to address it anyways. An expensive team is better than one person serving as legal dictator just based on past experiences here and at the county where inaccurate legal advice has been knowingly given. And I like that term duty of loyalty. It's a euphemistic antonym for money talks. Are these the long-awaited policy changes that David Zito claimed he couldn't get because he's apparently not charismatic and persistent like Rebecca? But they're both pretty intelligent people. Under board policy 11, there was erroneous G on the word within on page 48, but since this item is brought back, I have no idea what page it is now, and I wasn't going to reread that, so staff can figure it out. I agree with 1.1.1, and I'm not sure why that wasn't already the policy. Sounds like a lot of fraud may have occurred in the past by claiming in-town trips as out of town. 3.16 includes great transparency ideas for travel requests. Question, why are the travel documents not included in the agenda packets when they were publicly approved? Especially if it was approved via email or text message, that should be easily verified by and proven to the public. I await a SANDAG public records data portal as well. Board policy 016, interested to learn that SANDAG policies are under a public utilities code. Best value selection uses the term offerer. Why not bidder or solicitor? Why no language on whether or not SANDAG would avoid expensive cardinal changes? 1.1.3, what is the determination of what a low-risk micro purchase is? For 1.8, instead of the phrase particular genre to describe planning, environmental, or legal services, I suggest the phrase particular need. 4.3, it doesn't say who decides when a sole source contract is adequately justified. That's a loophole. Board policy 017, thanks for changing the term executive director to CEO so there's no more confusion. And thanks for laying out some of the responsibilities. Overall, it's a lot of great changes here and a lot of hard work, I'm sure. Maybe David Zito had a part in that, I don't know. And I really want everyone to remember this policy.
Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Cesar Javier.
Man, with that echo, I feel like I get to listen to the meeting twice in a row. It's crazy. And I feel like this is almost like reminiscent of the Epstein list just being blacked out, but hey, that's all right. Eventually, I'm sure the people that are culpable will be held accountable. Probably not because they're in the government. Yes, so with the board policy changes. Now, when we're talking about travel, I feel like you guys need to really practice what you preach and start walking and biking to wherever you guys have to go. And that needs to be like a policy. You can take public transit, but I think that needs to come out of your pocket. I don't know that we need to pay for that. And then also, you should have limited time to speak. So depending on how many people are in the public is determinant about how long you guys get to speak, because we need to have our time so you get the rest of the time. You can divvy it up between each other. Also, if you're going to be eating, you need to be feeding everybody. That needs to be a board policy. I mean, I know you guys kind of give us the little like leftovers, but it should be equitable, especially if we're paying for it. It's pretty rude. And then I would like to also, I mean, how about the roundabouts? We definitely need to get rid of those. That should be a board policy. Also to get rid of the climate action plan, because that is down from the United Nations. And if you guys want local control, oh, what better way to do that, right? Than quit playing into the climate god, because it's all a bunch of BS. Everything that you guys tell people is total lies. But as long as there's money coming down the pipe, right? Because it's all a racket. And how fun is it? You guys get a racket all the time. I mean, it's like who's involved with summer stepping? Because whoever is going to be exposed, just like Jim Desmond, Nathan Fletcher, you know, Todd Gloria, Joel Anderson, I'm sure, and there's some others. Other people have different rackets, though. So sometimes it's like, you know, Tara is a Soros puppet. So it's like she's got a different racket than Jim and Summer. So it's interesting, but also the vehicle miles traveled needs to go, because all you're doing is impeding people's ability, just like with the roundabouts. Otherwise, people are going to die in a fire. But hey, I guess who cares,
Thank
right?
you. Your time has expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Paul the Bull online.
Cesar Javier. We cannot defeat nature. We can only protect us. SANDAG has in the past set a mold or pattern as far as mobility and circulation. A to Z, we have already developed that pattern. A doctrinal, we say pattern. And policy change is not a weakness. If we could change every day, rationally, in accord with time, state, and condition, why not? Let's not be afraid. For everything is temporary. For everything has an end, subjective. But the passion to ensure that our resource or resources are not wasted, thinkers must be alert for any change. That's why we miss something on the good, better, and best. And that something is our presence every meeting. And what is that? That's SANDAG. The Ilocano term we call something to lean to. SANDAG, Ilocano term, lean to. Something that is stable, something that is safe, something that a lifetime inspiration for survival. We miss something in all our policy changes. The Latin word amat victoria curum. I translate this as we experience.
Thank you, Cesar. Your time has expired. Next is Paul the Bull online.
You could have let Caesar finish his sentence. About time the audit is addressed. Think I heard these dates for Mary Kay's time under Equata? Way overdue. Policy 3.8 mentions filling in the top half of the travel form. It should make clear when the bottom half gets filled out. Policy 16, definition of cardinal change should not include changes over 25% as a non-competitive procurement. Call it what it is, excessive. And I am disappointed that there is no mention of limiting contingency fees. I like that the policy requires putting requirements for a contractor in the contract so the contractor doesn't work on a bid only to find he doesn't qualify, and that the requirements to make a bid non-competitive are spelled out. Section 5.8, 11.3, recommending that a prospective contractor complete contracts worth 5 times the amount of the annual value of the SANDAG contract is ridiculous. Income discrimination and may exclude good vendors. Section 5.8, 2.1 entails a lot of work for the bidder. Please explore what research SANDAG could do instead of the bidder. I'm sure a lot of this stuff is public record or online. Policy 17, I like that it specifies who's in charge in the absence of the CEO rather than the chief deputy. I also like Section 8 where the CEO makes sure audit recommendations are followed and the rest of it too. Policy 23, not sure why you are deleting the policy on equipment.
Thank you, Paul.
and
Your time
flight
has
purchase.
expired. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
Very good. Any member comments? Oh, none. So may I have a motion to approve the proposed board policy changes? Motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
But I do have a quick question, if that's okay, Chair.
Sure. But for the record, a motion by Minto and a second by Duncan.
Thank you. I'm sorry if this is a kind of a basic question, but when I'm looking at the, let's see, what one is this? It is board policy number 16. And I'm looking, at all the definitions and everything about the bidding procedures and everything. And I think they're great. I think they're written, they're very detailed and there's a lot of safeguards. There's only one question I had, which was kind of in my mind, and maybe it's in here, so I apologize if I don't see it, but when they're going through the different bids and what's the lowest responsible bidder, et cetera, and it's not just price, right? It says in the upper, one of the first definitions. Is there any trigger that if a bid is taken that's very, like, say that we take the most expensive bid, even if we follow this, is there any trigger at any time where maybe it comes to the board or it comes in like that is elevated up out of these procedures, or is that already covered by them and I'm not quite getting it? You can correct me, like I'm not offended if I don't fully understand it.
So I believe what you're asking about is on the best value determination. I think what you're asking is if there's an unusually high dollar amount that's proposed, would it ever come to the board for?
Yeah, like the variance is huge, so maybe and also it's that section, yes, but also, the lowest, but yeah, a couple different times in here. But if, for instance, we have 10 bids, and if it ends up after all of this procedure, we're going with the highest bid, which is like a huge variance, would that trigger any additional, review beyond these procedures? Or is there something in here that maybe is a higher level review that I'm missing?
No, it doesn't trigger coming to the board, but I will tell you it's highly unlikely that that would happen because in order to be in the competitive range for best value, their score for cost, if it was off the charts, usually the cost evaluation factor is around 20 to 30% of their score out of 100 points. So if they have the highest dollar amount on their proposal, they're going to have a very low score. And if they have a very low score of, when 20 or 30 points is on the line for cost, they're very unlikely to have made it into the competitive range to be evaluated anyway as a best value proposer. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just thinking if there was an outlier, a strange outlying situation where, again, there's 10 bids, but for whatever reason, they're determined not to be maybe even responsive when we end up with one that's the last one that's just extremely different. I know it's highly unlikely. Like I said, I think the procedures are solid and I appreciate the work. Just something I wanted to mention, maybe it can be thought about if we come back to the board and, if there's any potential else we want to consider for some outline. I mean, really it's the outlying issues is where like problems often occur too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the basic issues. Some things should have been set up differently for a long time ago, but also like the rare one-off that could be
yeah,
shocking.
I would also say it's unlikely that the budget would allow for it because typically,
Okay.
there's an estimate. Well, there's always a cost estimate that's done in advance based on the budget. And so if the proposal is way out of line with what's been estimated, then it's unlikely we could even move forward with the proposal.
Normally, we develop an independent cost estimate before that it helps us be the basis. But I hear you, and we can look at it and see if also our internal operating policies actually are shielding the rare occasion that you're mentioning, and we can come back to you with what we have. But like Julie said, we have their criteria that only give so much scores, then the eyes, and then we need to come back to permission to award, and we
If
will need to
it's-
disclose that. I will have to disclose that if it's off the charts in one of the areas, right, of why we selected when it's a best value.
Maybe
the
that's
reasoning.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Maybe that's just would cover what I'm saying is if when it comes back, because sometimes I'm concerned, sometimes things come to us and we have the limited thing of what we're approving, but we don't necessarily know everything, how we got there. So maybe when something like that if it ever happens, maybe it won't, we can have that highlighted and
Yeah,
explained.
and I can commit to look at our internal operating policies and maybe make a statement of that if there, that we can highlight to the board the procedure under best value, and therefore those different grading criterias that came in and the amounts and everything, how did we get to score it to be the best value? So it could be an item when we're presenting permission to award.
Thank you, and my second of the motion still stands.
Very good. First Vice Chair McCauley.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take a moment. This is an extraordinary body of work. Thank you to the independent auditor for the recommendations, and thank you, Julie. This was a pretty heavy lift with a massive rewrite of the policies. I know policies updating often gets a low priority, so this is an extraordinary. So I just wanted to extend my thank you for this very good work. Thank you, Chair.
Very good. All right. So if no further discussion, we've got the motion in the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, that passes with all members present. Thank you. Before we conclude, let's take our continued do we have any continued? No? Oh, there we go. This concludes our meeting. The next executive committee meeting will be May 9th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.